Welcome again to Math 800 Pre-Algebra. Today we are doing section 5.4, multiplying signed decimal numbers. Our objectives: 1. To multiply positive and negative decimal numbers, and 2. To estimate the answer when multiplying decimals. To multiply two decimal numbers, first multiply the factors. Remember, factors are just the numbers being multiplied, as if they were whole numbers. So basically, ignore the decimal points and multiply. Step 2 is to find the total number of decimal places in both of the factors. Step 3 is to write the decimal point in the product, that's your result of the multiplication, so it has the same number of decimal places as the total from step 2. You may need to write an extra zeros on the left side of the product in order to get the correct number of decimal places. And step 4, if the two factors have the same sign, the product is positive. If the two factors have different signs, the product is negative. So basically, you multiply as if they were whole numbers, count up the total number of decimal places, and that will be the number of decimal places in your answer, and always keep track of your signs. A quick note: when multiplying decimals, you do not need to line up decimal points. That's different than when we're adding and subtracting. When we're adding and subtracting decimals, you do need to line up the decimal point. Remember, multiplying is not the same as adding. Example: find the product of 8.34 and negative 4.2. First, we're going to multiply the numbers as if they were whole numbers. So basically, ignore the two decimals and just multiply. 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 8 is 16. Leave a space or put a 0 or put an X. Some people put a 0 with an X, but make sure you are stepping over to the next column because this is really 40, 42, 40, so you're starting here. 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1. 4 times 3 is 12, plus that 1 is 13, carry that 1. 4 times 8 is 32, plus that 1 is 33. Add these numbers all up, and we get 35028. Notice, we are not lining up the decimal places, we're just lining up the last digit. That is very, very different than from multiplying and adding and subtracting. Step 2 is to count the total number of decimal places in both factors. The top factor has 2 decimal places and the bottom factor has 1 decimal place for a total of 3 decimal places. So here was our problem. We multiplied like they were whole numbers. We have 2 decimal places from one factor, 1 decimal place from the other for a total of 3 decimal places. We're going to count from the right going to the left. 1, 2, 3 places. And so our decimal is here, 35.028. A quick note, these factors had different signs, right? We had a positive and a negative. So our final answer will be a negative 35.028. That is your final answer, or negative 35 and 28 thousandths. Another example: find the product of negative 0.042 and negative 0.03. So we're just going to multiply and count the decimal places. Notice these zeros in front are not going to affect our multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 4 is 12. You would technically carry the 1. 3 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. 3 times 0 is 0. Once you start getting zeros on the left, you can ignore them. Also here, these two zeros, we'll just add rows of zeros, which are not going to do anything to our number. So you basically ignore zeros on the left or on the far right. Now, had there been a number here, like 10.042, then that's a different story. Then you have to account for all those zeros and then that 1 at the end. But if there's only zeros to the left or only zeros to the right, you can ignore them. Anyway, so now we've multiplied 42 times 3 and got 126. Now we have to count the decimal places. This number has 3 decimal places, 1, 2, 3. This number has 2 decimal places, 1, 2. We have a total of 5 decimal places. However, notice there's only 3 numbers to work with. There's only 3 places to work with. So we're going to have to write 2 zeros on the left side of the answer. So put 2 zeros to the left. Now we can count our 5 decimal places. Our final answer is 0.00126. This 0 on the left is optional. I always write it, the book always writes it, the videos always have it, but if you don't have it, it's okay. Now you'll estimate the answer when multiplying. It's always a good idea to estimate before you start. It kind of gives you a feel for whether or not you have counted the right number of decimals. We're going to multiply 76.34 times 12.5. 76.34 rounds to 80. 12.5 rounds to 10. 80 times 10 is 800. Now remember, when estimating with multiplication, your answer is going to be far less accurate than, say, estimating with addition or subtraction. So our answer might not be that close to 800, but it's a ballpark. So let's do our multiplication. We're going to ignore the decimals and just multiply the numbers as if they were whole numbers. And we get 954, and I'm guessing 0.250. At this point, I haven't counted anything. I'm guessing it goes here because my estimate was 800. So that's the only place I could put it to be anywhere near 800. If I put it here, I'd be 95. That's way too low. If I put it here, I'd be 9,542, and that'd be way too high. This is the only reasonable place to put it. We can confirm that by counting our decimal places. We have 2 decimal places there, 1 decimal place there, for a total of 3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3. So our final answer is 954.25. You can keep that 0 or drop it. We are not concerned with significant digits. However, in science classes, you will have to worry about significant digits, and they have slightly different rules to be followed there. That concludes section 5.4. Your next step is to complete the worksheet for section 5.4, then check the key, then complete the online homework for section 5.4 through My Math Lab, and then start on section 5.6. That would be a typo. You should start on section 5.5. Sorry.